The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Marcus wiped down the marble floors of Henderson. Industries for the 1,000th time, his calloused hands moving in practiced circles. At 42, he'd perfected the art of being invisible, the quiet janitor who arrived after everyone left and disappeared before the morning rush. But tonight, everything would change. Tonight, the woman who'd barely noticed him for 3 years would ask him to become her husband. Victoria Henderson stood in her corner office, trembling hands gripping a leather portfolio as she watched the janitor work. Through the glass walls, the billionaire CEO had built an empire on ruthless decisions and calculated risks, but now she faced a crisis no amount of money could solve. Her dying father's final wish to see her married before he passed hung over her like a guillotine. Every eligible bachelor in her social circle wanted her fortune, not her heart. She needed someone genuine, someone humble, someone who wouldn't betray her. She needed Marcus. Marcus had noticed Mrs. Henderson's car still in the parking garage, unusual for 11 at night. When her assistant called him to the executive floor, his stomach knotted. Had he done something wrong? Missed a spot? As he rode the elevator upward, he thought of his daughter Lily, asleep at his sister's house. The 8-year-old was his entire world, since cancer had taken his wife 4 years ago. This job, with its health insurance and steady paycheck, was everything. He couldn't afford to lose it. Victoria's proposal came out in a rush of desperate words. 6 months. A marriage of convenience. She'd pay him $500,000 to play the role of devoted husband until her father passed. Then they'd quietly divorce. Marcus stood frozen, mop still in hand, trying to process the surreal moment. $500,000 would change everything. Lily's education, their cramped apartment, the medical bills still crushing him. But pretending to love someone for money felt wrong, dishonest. "I can't," he whispered, watching Victoria's face fall. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Henderson. I have a daughter who looks up to me. What kind of example would I set?" Victoria's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Please, I'm not asking you to lie about who you are. My father just wants to know I found someone good, someone real before he goes. Every man I've dated only saw dollar signs." Her voice cracked. "You're the only person in this building who's ever been kind to me without wanting something in return." Marcus remembered the small moments, holding the elevator when she rushed in late, offering her his umbrella during an unexpected storm, finding her crying in the stairwell last Christmas, and simply sitting beside her in silence. He'd never thought she noticed. 2 months, he finally said. "I'll do 2 months, but I won't take your money. If we're going to do this, we do it because it's the right thing to help someone's dying father find peace." Victoria stared at him, this janitor who'd just refused $500,000, and felt something shift in her chest. "Then at least let me help with your daughter's education, please. That's not payment, that's gratitude." The wedding was small, held in her father's hospital room. Thomas Henderson, once a titan of industry, now reduced to whispers and shallow breaths, smiled as Marcus held Victoria's hand and promised to cherish his daughter. Afterward, Marcus returned to his one-bedroom apartment while Victoria went home to her penthouse. They'd agreed to maintain separate lives, only appearing together for her father's visits. But life had other plans. Thomas insisted on family dinners. Victoria found herself in Marcus's modest home, watching him cook spaghetti while Lily chattered about her school day. The little girl showed Victoria her drawings, completely unaware their marriage was pretend. Something about the simplicity of it, the laughter, the pasta sauce on Lily's nose, Marcus's gentle patience, cracked something open inside. Victoria's carefully constructed walls. Marcus, meanwhile, saw beyond the Ice Queen reputation. He noticed how Victoria listened intently to Lily's stories, how she researched the best schools without being asked, how she showed up to Lily's soccer game in a business suit and cheered louder than anyone. This wasn't obligation. This was genuine care. 6 weeks into their arrangement, Thomas took a turn for the worse. At 2 in the morning, Victoria called Marcus, her voice shattered. He arrived at the hospital, still in his janitor's uniform, gathering her into his arms as she sobbed. They sat beside Thomas's bed, Marcus holding Victoria's hand for real this time, not for show. Thomas opened his eyes and smiled at their intertwined fingers. "I need to tell you something," Thomas whispered to Victoria. I know this marriage started as pretense. Your assistant accidentally left the contract on my nightstand. Victoria gasped. But her father continued. I said nothing because I wanted to see what would happen. Would you discover what I already knew? What's that, Daddy? Victoria asked through tears. That real love isn't found in boardrooms or at charity galas. It's found in the person who holds your hand in the dark, who sees your worst moments and stays anyway. He looked at Marcus. Young man, I had you investigated. I know who you really are. Marcus's blood ran cold. Victoria looked between them, confused. Thomas continued, his breathing labored. Marcus Chen, formerly Dr. Marcus Chen, one of the most promising cardiac surgeons on the East Coast. You gave up your career to care for your wife during her illness? Then couldn't return because you had no one to care for Lily. You've been working as a janitor, taking online courses at night to finish your medical recertification. Victoria turned to Marcus, shock written across her face. You're a doctor? Marcus's voice was barely audible. I was. Being Lily's father mattered more than being Dr. Chen. The night shift janitorial job let me be there when she woke up. Take her to school, help with homework. She needed her dad, not my career. He still volunteers at the free clinic every Saturday, Thomas added. Uses his day off to treat patients who can't afford care. The man you thought was simple is extraordinary, Victoria. And you... He looked at his daughter with profound love. You became the woman I always knew you could be. Compassionate, real, human. Thomas Henderson passed away 3 days later with both of them at his side. After the funeral, as mourners gathered at the Henderson estate, Victoria found Marcus on the terrace where they'd first agreed to their arrangement. We can end this now, she said softly. You fulfilled your promise. Marcus looked at the woman who'd become his best friend, who made Lily laugh, who'd shown him that wealth and kindness weren't mutually exclusive. What if I don't want it to end? Victoria's breath caught. The contract? Forget the contract. I'm asking if you want to try something terrifying. Something real. She stepped closer, her hand finding his. I'm scared. Everyone I've trusted has wanted my money. I don't want your money, Victoria. I want Saturday mornings watching Lily's soccer games together. I want someone to share my terrible cooking with. I want the person who cried watching Lily's school play last week, who anonymously paid for 3 of her classmates' field trip fees because you knew their family struggled. He cupped her face gently. I want you. Tears streamed down Victoria's face as she kissed him, pouring months of denied feelings into that moment. When they finally pulled apart, she whispered, I'm keeping the janitor's daughter college fund. It's already set up. Marcus laughed, the sound pure and joyful. Stubborn billionaire. Stubborn doctor, she countered, smiling through her tears. 6 months later, they stood in the same hospital where Thomas had blessed their pretend marriage. This time watching Marcus perform surgery for the first time since his return to medicine. Victoria had secretly arranged his recertification, calling in favors and clearing bureaucratic hurdles. Lily sat beside her in the observation gallery, holding her hand. Is Daddy really back to being a doctor? Lily asked. Yes, sweetheart. And you know what? We convinced him to only work 3 days a week, so he can still take you to school and help with homework. Lily grinned. Because you're rich. Victoria laughed. Because we're family, and family takes care of each other. As Marcus emerged from surgery, successful and beaming, he looked up at the gallery and found his wife and daughter waving. The janitor who'd been invisible had become the center of someone's world. The billionaire who'd been surrounded by people had finally found genuine connection. That evening, in their newly shared home, not the penthouse, not the apartment, but a comfortable house with a yard where Lily could play, the 3 of them sat around the dinner table. Marcus had cooked his infamous spaghetti. Victoria told terrible jokes. Lily laughed so hard she snorted. Best pretend marriage ever, Victoria murmured to Marcus as they tucked Lily into bed. Good thing it's not pretend anymore, he whispered back, kissing her softly. Outside, the city lights twinkled like promises kept. A janitor had taught a billionaire about true wealth. A billionaire had reminded a doctor of his worth. And together they'd discovered that love isn't found in contracts or convenience. It's built in quiet moments, selfless choices, and the courage to see beyond surfaces to the extraordinary. hearts beating underneath. The real secret wasn't that Marcus had been a doctor all along. It was that both of them had been incomplete, playing roles, hiding their true selves from a world that demanded perfection. In each other, they found permission to be beautifully, messily, perfectly human, and that was worth more than any fortune.